Chapter 9. Tula did not ordinarily have much time for Felix, but today she felt she needed to defer to his age and wisdom. He had, after all, been in the forest much longer than most of the other animals. Only one of the stags was older, and he had become a little hard of hearing. He was also not as clever as Felix. Felix, however, was notoriously difficult to find. She padded over the mossy ground, sniffing carefully as she went. She came upon a patch of earth where several clumps of moss had been turned over, the moist soil beneath now shining at the surface. Looking around, she could see many similar patches. The sounder was close by. Tula paused, listening carefully. To her right, she could hear a mixture of deep grunts and high-pitched squeals. She made her way towards them, deliberately making noise so she would not surprise them. The piglets were too big now for mothers to worry about them being attacked by a fox, but it was still unwise to startle a sow with piglets. She flinched slightly, remembering a previous bruising encounter. "Afternoon all," she said as she neared the group. Two of the sows spun their head around to see who was coming, but it was Katana who spoke. "What do you want?" she said. "I wondered if you knew where I might find Felix," Tula said, keeping a safe distance from the sows. "I doubt Felix will want to see you," Katana said. "What do you want with him anyway?" Tula took a deep breath to maintain her composure. She needed to find Felix, and that meant appeasing Katana. "The young ones are getting so big," Tula said. "They look really healthy." "They look really tasty, is that what you mean?" Katana snapped. Tula kicked herself. She hadn't seen that one backfiring. She had taken only one piglet in her whole life, and it had been purely by chance. In the wake of a moon hunt, she had stumbled upon the sounder when they were in a state of distress and chaos. One tiny newborn piglet had run off to the side to go to the toilet. With the piglet now hidden from the rest of the sounder behind a bush, the temptation had been too much for the young vixen. She had pounced, grabbing the piglet in her strong jaws. Unfortunately, the piglet had squealed "Blue murder," attracting the attention of the already agitated sounder. They had raced after her through the forest, bearing down on her like missiles. If they'd caught up with her, she would not have survived. In an attempt to distract the sows and to lighten her load, Tula had dropped the squealing piglet. Mercifully, it had worked. The sows stopped immediately to tend to the injured piglet. One had chased after her for another few hundred yards to make sure the brazen fox had gotten the message, but then she too returned to the tiny pig. Tula was never sure if the boars had identified her as the culprit. Despite the bright moon, the forest had been cast with dark shadows, and the entire incident had taken less than a minute. She had hoped they had only seen her from behind as she flashed away through the trees. She had always assumed it was suspicion and not actual knowledge that had spurred their dislike of her. She was careful not to say or do anything that would give her away, and tried to look like she was a caring aunt rather than a potential threat whenever she was in sight of the sows. "Mine have gotten so big too," Tula said. "There have been so many mice this year. The kids are thriving." Katana's expression did not change. "Looks like there's plenty of acorns this year too," Tula continued. "Lots of food for everyone." Katana's glare intensified. "Stop talking about food, Tula," Tula thought. "Gorgeous weather we're having, isn't it? Lovely to have one final blast of heat before the chill sets in," Tula said. Katana took 2 steps forward, her impatience growing. "Crikey, she's big," Tula thought. "So, any idea where I might find Felix?" "I asked you what you wanted with him." I noticed a few strange goings on here in the forest, and I wondered if Felix might help explain them. What sort of goings on? Well, it's a bit complicated, Tula said, and if you don't mind, I'd rather speak directly to Felix about it. Tula was afraid if she explained her query, Gitana might think it was nonsense and refuse to help her. Gitana continued to glare at her, and Tula readied herself to sprint in case she decided to charge. You might find him near the gully, Gitana said suddenly, her face softening a little. Tula was baffled. On the one hand, she was surprised Gitana had given her any information at all. On the other hand, the information wasn't all that useful. The gully was long, running the full width of the forest. It would still take her some time to locate Felix. Still, at least she had a starting point. She sensed this was all the information Gitana was prepared to give her, given that she had already returned to her rooting. Thank you, Gitana, she said. That's very kind of you. Gitana ignored her completely. With one or two of the sows still keeping a close watch on her, Tula padded off towards the gully.